Hello, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News, and it is Wednesday, November 19th. We are with the South Florida Conservative News Center, and it is 8:15 a.m., which is why the light's all screwy, more screwy than normal, and have an interesting, hopefully interesting, take on what's occurring in the, I guess we'll call it, peasant movement in Mexico and why certain things are going down there, secular caste system violence, all that type of thing, and basically the rise of an Aztec death cult and why it is outstriping Catholicism and even these more outwardly Pentecostal type churches. So, what we're going to talk about is what is called Santa Muerte, the Holy Death, and why more and more Mexicans are turning to it. It also shows you some applications as to what it goes on in the political scene in Mexico, and you'll get a bit of a feel for it. Those of you who are familiar with Santa Muerte, at least from the imagery, is that of a skeleton in a robe with a scythe and a crystal ball, which is funny because a guy said to me that that is the Sons of Anarchy symbol. So I guess they're in trouble just for that one alone, right? The Santa Muerte cult has occurred, I guess, in the last decade or so, and has really gotten more and more popular as the country is gripped by narco terrorism and an increasingly polarized wealth base. So we're going to be exploring this powerful and unexpected shift, which is happening across Mexico. So for almost a century, when the poor were abandoned by their government and overlooked by the church, they often turned towards leftist movements, which is communism, socialism, liberation theology, okay? Things like that. We've had a good run of it in Mexico. But today, that world is completely gone. Mexico's poor are turning somewhere else entirely, and that is to our new friend, Santa Muerte, the folk saint of the forgotten. Okay, it's actually Saint Death or the Holy Death, but saints down there have a lot of names. So, for generations, the Catholic Church held enormous cultural power in Mexico. But over time, the church drifted away from the realities of the poor. They've had scandals, political entanglements, and a leadership class increasingly aligned with elites, which has left the working class spiritually homeless. Then came Pope Francis's highly political stance on U.S. immigration, seen by many Mexican families as aligning with the NGOs, the politicians, and the wealthy interests, while ignoring the violence and exploitation the poor faced along the migration routes. Very true there, right? To the people on the ground, the church felt distant, foreign, moralizing. They sided with the more European looking Mexicans over the more Indian looking Mexicans. And they stopped turning to that church. So in the 20th century, like I said, the church didn't speak for them. The poor tuned into other voices, which was the communist, the socialist movements, liberation theology priests. The left offered dignity, justice, and promise of transformation. It delivered on none of those things. And between that and the corruption, authoritarianism, and the failure of socialist governments across the region killed that dream right off. The leftist movements of today feel more, I guess you could say, like technocratic NGOs or a Harvard Yale debating society, which is probably who's involved in it, than revolutionary forces. Communism became an institution, and the poor are done with institutions in Mexico. The stage is now set. Who is going to fill the vacuum? Enter Santa Muerte. The Santa Muerte, she is not a politician and not a church approved saint. She's an indigenous infused folk figure, the skeletal personification of death. And from her beginning, her popularity was among migrants, street vendors, sex workers, prisoners, people that worked in cartel adjacent jobs, the working poor, people who felt abandoned by the church and the state. They had no other court of appeal and they decided to go to her. What does she offer them? She offers protection, acceptance, identity, cultural pride to some extent, I guess even more so every day, a sense of control in a chaotic world. You don't need to be sinless. You don't need to be rich. You don't need to belong to the right class or race. Santa Muerte accepts everybody, much as death will do, right? The underclass today doesn't want an ideology. They want to survive. It's talking about Mexico. It's going to get like that here at some point as you Mexicanize further parts of California and New Mexico and Texas and stuff like that. Communism, it's a distant utopia. Santa Muerte promises protection tonight, right now. Okay. So communism speaks of a collective struggle. Santa Muerte speaks to your family being safe when you leave your house in the morning. Communism tells you to fight for the masses. Santa Muerte helps you feed your children when the state fails. Santa Muerte is immediate, personal, and culturally authentic in a way the Catholic Church and Marxist politics never were. So, Mexico's unspoken caste system, which there is one, if you've ever been there or even talked to people around here, white or light skinned elites at the top, brown and indigenous people at the bottom. It has never gone away. Go watch any of the telenovelas on Telemundo or Univision and look at who the maid is usually. And look who the rich people are usually. Almost all the time, actually. And who the maids and the servants are all the time, actually. That shows you exactly what we're talking about. That is the broadcast belief of the dominant Mexican elites, who, funny enough, are kind of socialist in their own effed up way when it comes to dealing with our politics, but not their own, which they have a very tight fist on. So Santa Muerte becomes a way for the marginalized to reclaim their identity. They are not European. They are not elite. They are not institutional. They are not controlled by the church. They are not dictated by political movements. She is their own saint for their own struggles. If you want to see a much more involved discussion in English on this topic, I would suggest you go to anything that Ed Calderon has talked about on this, Calderon, or Ed's Manifesto, which is his other channel. I believe Ed is not just a student of the game. I'm assuming that he's pretty well involved in it at this point, and will explain to you the workings of how it is done, the people that it affects. If you are from south of the border and you are interested in that, that would be your place to look for that. There is a definite difference before anyone starts between the veneration of this saint and the Santeria movement and the voodoo movement and also Spiritism. Spiritism was the original. I wouldn't know. It's not the original, but it was one of the first European occultist or ideas that came over from France and caused a big wave over in Mexico and had a lot of things attached to it. There were some other people who put together cults on Spiritism, which got involved in human sacrifice almost right away and murder and all this kind of shit. You don't get that with the Santa Muerte followers, at least that we're aware of. So, what has happened, as we said, to round it all up, is the Mexicans abandoned poor that we used to have to always worry they were going to turn communist or socialist. They are a lot of them going towards the Santa Muerte system for protection, identity, and dignity. She is giving them what a political ideology couldn't, and her rise marks one of the most significant cultural transformations in modern Mexican life. Okay. It is not the death of a religion. She is the death of false promises made to the poor and working poor of the country of Mexico, and I guess into anywhere else that she is now starting to pop up. I know the Botanica near my house has all the color statues of her. So they have brought that up here with them. And also the people who are the target audience exist here already. So that's pretty much what I wanted to get out there for you. And like I said, it's very interesting to follow that they've gone this way in embracing nationalism, true nationalism for the Mexicans. This saint has reappeared from the Aztec period, probably. She's one of the death gods. There's a different outfit for her. She has a different name, but we're going to go by the Santa Muerte. Okay. Anything else you want to check out? I would say Ed Calderon is a good choice in English. In Spanish, there are many other ones. I'm not gonna confuse you. Go with Ed first, and if you are more interested in that subject later on, you can look at the Spanish ones and then translate as you need to, unless you speak Spanish yourself. So that is about all. Hope you have a good day, and we'll talk to you later on. Bye.